Southwest Airlines says it's back to normal this evening, I should say, following major cancellations and delays across the board that left travelers stranded and angry this holiday season. Today, Senator Richard Blumenthal proposed a passenger bill of rights that would protect airline customers and their wallets in the case of future troubles. Chief investigative reporter Sam Smink joins us live now from Bradley International Airport to tell us how travelers feel about it. Sam.
Irene, much happier news here at the airport today than last week. I'm going to step out of the way. Right now, JetBlue has a few flights getting ready to take off, so that's why you see those lines there. But as for cancellations, we've really only seen about 3, one from Southwest going to Denver, 2 from Frontier going to Orlando. Blumenthal wants to make sure something like what happened last week never happens again.
We had a completely seamless experience.
No travel issues at all.
Actually, travel was uneventful, which is always a wonderful thing.
Passengers at Bradley Airport Monday had much different stories than those traveling last week. A company-wide meltdown at Southwest Airlines left thousands of passengers stranded between Christmas and New Year's.
It was the result of bad management, airline malpractice.
Following the disaster, the result of Southwest Airlines failing to upgrade their software system, Senator Richard Blumenthal intends to introduce a passenger bill of rights.
If a flight is canceled, money back. If there are delays or cancellations and alternative flights are available, airlines should put their passengers on the flights of other airlines. If there are any kind of loss of bags, passengers should receive money for their costs, delays or cancellations, rental cars, hotel, meals, no questions asked. Money back.
Blumenthal says the bill is necessary because of the airline industry's continuing poor performance over the years. 1 out of every 4 flights in 2022 in America were canceled or delayed, according to Blumenthal. He says it's time taxpayers are given what they're owed. Travelers agree.
I think that would probably make the airlines be a little bit more careful on what they're doing.
Senator Blumenthal also says he believes there should be changes at the top of Southwest Airlines when it comes to management. Coming up at 6, we talk more about how the Attorney General wants to be involved with airline trouble. For now, reporting live from the airport, Sam Smink, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.